I want to associate thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to associate my questions with a follow-up to my colleague, Mr. Brown. I, too, think it's incredibly important that we receive a briefing in a classified setting regarding the cyber threats to our naval ships. But I want to ask you specifically, you mentioned that we are integrating cyber and network vulnerabilities as part of our ongoing investigation. How is that happening specifically, even if it is just to rule out cyber as a potential cause?
Specifically, Admiral Gilday, Vice Admiral Gilday at 10th Fleet is our Fleet Cyber Command. He has a team that he's formed that will go, they're a team of experts, I mean, very, very talented young men and women that are in place and will use their knowledge of how they would attack to determine whether we've been attacked. And they'll know where to go look. This is the first time we've done this. And we're not stopping this is to try to institutionalize doing cyber as part of any mishap, aviation, submarine, you name it. We need to go look at it as an order of business and not hand wave it to it's cyber.
Yes,
so that's where we're headed.
I agree with that, and that leads to my next question. You mentioned that you're institutionalizing this process. This is the first time that cyber has been integrated. Is that service-wide? Is that going to be a part of any future investigation?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you describe other activities the Navy is institutionalizing, like Task Force Cyber Awakening and CyberSafe, to up our game when it comes to protecting our critical tactical platforms from cyber threats?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. What other activities is the Navy institutionalizing, such as Task Force Cyber Awakening and CyberSafe, to increase our cybersecurity when it comes to protecting our tactical platforms?
Yes, great question. So those efforts weren't started and completed. We continue to work through several of the discoveries during Task Force Cyber Awakening, as an example. One of the journeys that we're on right now that our CNO, John Richardson, has really brought forward is this notion of understanding all of the digital connections that are resident within every system we have out there today. And they're not connected as well, and we are not able to operate them as effectively as we should. That's also driving, when you dive into it that deeply, you also realize that there's a cyber component to trying to make the Navy more digitized, because it could become vulnerable more quickly unless you protect those digital databases and the ability to do analytics and those sorts of things. So again, when we come over to brief you on the classified level, we will show you what we did with the money that Congress gave us at the end of this year in fiscal year 17, where we applied it, to what defensive systems and protections that we needed to do. And in some cases, it's fundamentally basic things like shifting to the new Windows across the board, where we're getting commercial protection that comes with that product, as opposed to living off of older Windows versions on older gear that are very vulnerable without that protection.
Sure. Just to use that example, there is a sense of urgency to this. Technology is changing. If an example is making sure that you have the updated version of Windows, we need to do better in terms of addressing this.
And the Department of Defense has mandated that across the services. So all of us are responding to this. We have a deadline. It's coming up, and I can only speak for the Navy, but we are on track to meet that deadline on things as basic as what you just described.
Thank you very much, Admiral Moran, and I yield back.